Hi, I'm Callie and this is Kapowski Reads and this is my mid-year freakout. Or to give it a more positive sounding name, I'm gonna call it my first 6 months of the year in review because I'm not freaking out about reading. Reading is not a competitive sport. So I have seen the mid-year freakout tag all over BookTube and it just looked so fun, so I'm hopping aboard and joining in myself. I had meant to do a sort of end of Q1 update around about April, but I forgot, so that didn't happen. I'm just going to round up my January to June now and try and remember to do a Q3 wrap up in September, October. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. So let's start with the stats, which are one of my favourite things about watching these videos that other people have done, and I'm doing myself too. I have gotten all of my stats from StoryGraph and Goodreads. If you want to be my pal over on either of those forums or any other of my social medias, I have popped links in the description, but let's get on with the stats. So I have read, up to the end of June, I have read 109 books, which is great because my goal was 120, and I know I could and probably should change my goal, but I don't want to. I am happy with my goal being 120. There's something that is just so soothing about being fairly certain that I will hit my goal. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. Things could happen and that means that I might not, but I would rather stick with what I aimed for, and if I beat it, then I beat it. But like I say every time, I read more books when I'm stressed, so I don't want to increase my reading goal and then almost feel like I'm encouraging myself to be stressed and read more. That doesn't sound like that would be a good idea. So we're sticking with what we have, and I have read 32,619 pages. So I kind of must favour a relatively short book because I think that averages out as like just under 300 pages per book if we divide it by 109. And that sounds about right. I do tend to read, clearly I do tend to read books that are about 300 pages. Most read moods are mysterious, adventurous, and emotional, which I think is appropriate because I cry at everything. I don't mean to, but my eyes just leak. So I think that sounds about right. I have really noticed an increase in the number of more emotional books that I have read this year. So it's quite nice to see that reflected in the stats. And I love a murder mystery. I do read at least one a month, so I did expect mysterious to be quite near the top. So that's quite expected. But adventures? I was not expecting to see that. So that's quite interesting. My most read genres are a surprise to nobody, with fantasy at the top and mystery second place and literary at the third spot. I'm not 100% sure what literary means because that's just a book, isn't it? My two favourite genres are fantasy and mystery, so that's really good for me to see that I'm reading more of what I want and enjoy reading, so yay! So on to the questions of the book tag, and I'm going to start with my best book so far of 2022, which just feels like starting with such a hard question. I am probably going to go with Other People's Clothes by Kala Henko because that was my favourite book of June, and that's the book that's sort of the most recently in my mind of being a book that I loved. So that is subject to change, but for now, Other People's Clothes. Love it. Best sequel read in 2022 has to be This Wicked Fate by Kailyn Bayron. There are no contenders. It has to be This Wicked Fate. I absolutely love that book. New release not yet read that I want to read is The Keeper of Secrets by Sally Page. I recently got this book for my birthday after putting it on my wish list. My mum got me it and I'm just so excited to read it and I can't wait. My most anticipated read for the second half of 2022 is The Daughter of Dr Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Silvia Moreno Garcia is one of my favourite authors, an auto-buy author. I have read and loved 5 of their books so far, and I have absolutely no doubt that I am going to love their newest book that I think is out. I'm not super sure. I want to say it's out in September, but I could be making that up. I might be making that up. It is out in the second half of this year though. I've got it on pre-order and I am poised and ready to read it when it comes. My biggest disappointment of 2022, I feel so guilty saying that I'm disappointed in a book. I just hate not liking books. I feel really bad. Somebody's tried and here I am not liking it. So my biggest disappointment unfortunately has to be The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I loved the Thursday Murder Club. It gave me old lady goals, but the second book in the series featured mainly on a character who was my least favourite character in the first book. So instantly I was a little bit, I didn't really want to focus on her so much. And the book barely gave any time to my favourite characters. And it's sort of what I had loved about the first book seemed to have just been edited out of the second book. And instead of being the cosy, fun murder mystery with the retirement home, it was sort of going down the route of a spy caper. And I'm not the biggest fan of spy novels, so didn't do it for me, but I have a friend who really wanted to read it, so I've since given her my copy of it and she's happy to have it, so it's gone to somebody who enjoys it, and that makes me feel better about not liking it so much. My biggest surprise was The Young Team by Graham Armstrong. I did expect to enjoy this book, so it's not that it surprised me by being good, because I thought it was going to be good, and it was. But I didn't expect to enjoy it nearly as much as I did, because it included so many references to gang culture that I thought it was just going to be maybe a bit too violent for me. I'm a huge wuss, but it was so full of heart, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it exceeded my expectations, which were already pretty high, because it feels like the rest of the Scottish book club had already read and enjoyed it before I had, so I knew it was going to be good. I just didn't know if it was going to be my sort of book. I just thought it was maybe going to make me feel a little bit queasy, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and exceeded expectations. Huge surprise. So yeah. My new favourite new to me author is Stephanie Garber. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart this year and I loved it, and since then I've now received the Caraval series and I've pre-ordered the Ballad of Broken Hearts. Is that what it's called? I've pre-ordered the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. So I just read one book by the author and now suddenly I own 3, soon will own 4. That's how much I enjoyed her writing. So very excited to have found this author who I feel like everyone else has been reading and nobody bothered to tell me that they were amazing. I'm happy to join what feels like the rest of BookTube and Instagram and be a Stephanie Garber fan. A book that made me cry. I cry at everything. I cry at a heartwarming advert. It's not an achievement for a book to make me cry. I cry so easily. But a book that wrecked me was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I had to actually put a t-shirt in my face because I was open mouth wail sobbing and I didn't want to disturb my neighbours. So that's how I read the last few chapters of that book, just absolutely howling with tears. I felt ill. I was so dehydrated, but I loved it. I absolutely loved that book, but it wrecked me. I really should have learned at that point to read books with tissues, and I still don't. So I learned nothing. The most beautiful book that I've bought this year is actually 6 books, and it's the Sherlock Holmes collection. I bought them all in the Wordsworth Classics, and just they're just gorgeous. We've got a bookshelf downstairs, which is in the hallway, so as soon as somebody comes in our house, they see the bookshelf, which has some lovely classics. It's got my boyfriend's really nice Warhammer books on it, so it's sort of our show off bookshelf, and that's where my Wordsworth classic editions live. So they are definitely, I think they're my prettiest. They're at least my most chic looking books. A book that made me happy was A Glasgow Kiss by Sophie Gravia. This book made me absolutely howl with laughter as opposed to howling with tears, and I cackled. I can only describe my reaction to this book as cackling like a mad witch. It was so funny, and the author has actually got a new book out. Again, I want to say September. Either every book I want to read is out in September, or I've just decided it is, but it's out later this year. Again, I've pre-ordered it, so I don't need to remember when it comes out, but I found this book to be one of the funniest books that I have read in a really long time. Highly recommend it if you want to laugh like a mad witch. And what books do I want to finish this year? So many. I want to finish all of the books that I set out to finish in my 22 in 2022, and I'm on track, so I'm feeling okay about those, and I'm making good progress in the series that I want to finish as well. I'd really love to finish reading the Terry Pratchett Witches books, but I've only read 2 of them, so I really should get on with that, I suppose. There's so many books I want to read this year, and it just feels like this is the point I'm maybe going to start freaking out, because the year's halfway done and I've not read as much as I want to. No, well, there we are. So that was super fun for me. I hope that that was quite fun for you to watch as well. And I would love to know your answers to any of these questions. And if anybody wants to do this, consider yourselves tagged, because I didn't tag anybody. I just saw it and did it. Thank you for watching. Bye!